All right, let's talk about one of the most incredible things your body can do, neuroplasticity. You've probably heard of it. It's this amazing ability of our brains to literally change and rewire themselves based on our experiences. It's the reason we can learn new things and adopt new mindsets at any age. But if that's true, why does it feel so darn hard?
You know what I'm talking about? You try to learn a new language, pick up guitar, or master some new software for work, and it just feels like you're wading through mud. It definitely didn't feel this difficult when we were kids. So what's going on?
Well, here's the thing. Your brain is absolutely designed to keep changing your whole life. The problem is, the rulebook for how it changes gets completely rewritten around adulthood. It's not that you've lost the ability to learn, not at all. You just have to start playing by a totally new set of rules.
And this right here is the biggest difference. As kids, our brains are basically sponges. Plasticity is passive. It's automatic. We learn just by being around stuff. But after age 25 or so, that all changes. Adult plasticity is active. It's gated. Think of it like a door that used to be wide open, but now it's locked. You can't just wander in anymore. You need the key.
And this brings us to a huge myth about how our brains work. Seriously, this one idea holds so many people back from actually making the changes they want to make in their lives.
Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman puts it perfectly. He calls it one of the biggest lies in the universe, the idea that every single experience you have changes your brain. We love to say that, don't we? But for an adult, it is just plain wrong. Your brain doesn't change just because you sat through a boring lecture or tried something one time. So here's the bottom line. For an adult, your brain only rewires itself when you specifically tell it to. And that command, it's not some kind of wishful thinking. The command is a biological state. It is intense, razor-sharp focus. That is the key that unlocks the gate to neuroplasticity.
Okay, so how does focusing actually work? How does it send that message to your brain that says, hey, this thing right here is important, time to change? Well, it all comes down to a very specific recipe of neurochemicals.
See, when you really dial in your focus, your brain releases this special cocktail. First up is epinephrine. You might know it as adrenaline. This gets you super alert. Then, acetylcholine from your brainstem acts like a chemical spotlight, shining right on the specific brain circuits you're using. And finally, another shot of acetylcholine from your forebrain gives the final go signal, which basically tags those circuits for an upgrade. When those three chemicals are there, change isn't just possible, it's inevitable.
And we know this works because of some really cool experiments by a guy named Michael Merzenich. He had people touch this spinning, textured drum. And when they just passively touched it, guess what? Nothing happened in their brains. But when he told them to pay really close attention to the feeling of that texture, the part of their brain for their fingertips literally grew and rewired itself. It wasn't the touching that mattered, it was the attention to the touching.
Okay, so the science is clear. We need alertness and focus. We need to get those chemicals flowing. But how do we actually do that when we need to? Let's get practical. Here is a step-by-step guide you can start using today. First, let's talk about time. What's the perfect amount of time for a deep learning session? The science points to about 90 minutes. Why? Because our brains and bodies naturally work in these 90-minute cycles of focus and energy. They're called ultradian cycles. So the idea is to work with your biology, not against it.
So to start your 90-minute block, you need to get that epinephrine flowing. You need alertness, and you can actually hack this using strong emotions. You could dedicate your session to someone you really care about. Or you could create some accountability, leverage a little healthy fear of letting a friend down. And here's the wild part. Your brain doesn't care why you're alert, it just responds to the chemical signal.
Okay, next up, we need that laser-like focus from acetylcholine. And the key to this is so simple it's almost silly. Here it is. Mental focus follows visual focus. Let me say that again. Mental focus follows visual focus. Your attention goes where your eyes go. So the fastest way to focus your mind is to first focus your eyes.
So here's a little exercise. Before you start your work, just pick a tiny spot on your screen or on a piece of paper in front of you. And for just 1 or 2 minutes, stare at it. Really stare. Don't let your eyes wander. You'll actually feel your vision start to narrow, almost like you're looking through a soda straw. That physical action directly triggers the release of acetylcholine, basically warming up your brain for deep focus.
Now, a quick warning. As you're trying to focus, you're going to feel agitated. Your mind is going to want to drift off to a million other things. That is totally normal. In fact, that feeling of struggle, that means it's working. That's the feeling of you generating the alertness and the effort that's required for change. The real skill of focus isn't about never getting distracted. It's about noticing you're distracted and gently bringing your attention back, over and over again. But here's the final piece of the puzzle, and it's the one almost everyone gets wrong. You can have the most epic, focused, 90-minute session ever, but the actual physical rewiring of your brain, that doesn't happen during the session. It happens later.
Think of it like this. During your focus work, all you're doing is using that chemical cocktail to put little sticky notes on the brain circuits that need to be changed. You're just marking them. The actual construction crew that does the rewiring, they only come in later, when you're in deep sleep or a state of deep rest.
And you can actually put this process into overdrive. Research shows that if you take a short 20-minute nap or do what's called a non-sleep deep rest protocol, that could be a body scan or some yoga nidra, right after your learning session, you can seriously speed up the whole rewiring process. That deliberate rest is what locks in the changes. So the power to change your brain is not something you lose, you just have to be more intentional about it. You need alertness, you need intense focus, and you need deep rest. You now have the science and the roadmap. So the only question left is, what are you going to focus on to consciously change your brain? Thanks for tuning in.